There's a subtle magic woven into the most ordinary moments. Quiet ritual performed thousands of times a day in hushed medieval homes. That wasn't about grandeur or power, but about something far more foundational: the slow, deliberate creation of order. A gentle discipline of hand and cloth, where each precise movement wasn't just a chore, but an almost sacred act of peace. An act that, for generations, offered a whisper of calm in a loud, demanding world. An act we can rediscover right now. We'll come to a quiet corner of history where we seek tranquility in the forgotten rhythms of the past. Today, we re-unspooling a tale designed specifically for your rest and relaxation. The repetitive folding of medieval linen, and I guarantee, by the end of our journey, you'll discover a profound, expected peace in the gentle, predictable beauty of household routine. If the idea of uncovering these soothing, overlooked moments from history resonates with you, do me a favor and gently tap that subscribe button now so you never miss another whisper of calm. So, dim the lights, find your most comfortable spot, and let us step back in time. Let's begin. Let us drift back in time then, to a medieval morning. The world outside is still hushed, perhaps a whisper of pre-dawn chill clinging to the air, or the first faint glow of the sun just beginning to paint the edges off the window. Inside, a quiet awakening stirs. No blaring alarms, no sudden jolts into consciousness, but a slow, gentle return from the realm of dreams. A wave. And woven into this very first moment of the day, we encounter our faithful companion, linen. Imagine, if you will, the cool, quiet interior of a bedchamber. The air carries the faint, mingled scent of wood smoke from the hearth. Perhaps a hint of dried herbs, and the distinctive, clean aroma of offstered cloth. Our medieval inhabitant stirs. The very first touch they register will likely be the linen sheets that have cradled them through the night. The feel of the slightly rumpled fabric against the skin, cool and smooth in some places, warmed by body heat in others, is a tactile anchor to the waking world. There's a quiet grace in this initial interaction, a sensory bookmark marking the transition from sleep to day. With a soft sigh, rising from the straw mattress or feather bed, the first order of business is often to attend to personal attire, and here, linen truly begins its daily cycle. From a sturdy wooden coffer perhaps, or a simple hanging rack, a clean chemise or shiftus drawn forth. This is the foundational garment, the layer closest to the skin for both men and women, irrespective of their station. As it is lifted, the fabric rustles with a soft, dry sound, like autumn leaves caught in a gentle breeze. It's a sound that speaks of freshness, of preparation, of the day stretching out ahead. Feel the linen in your mind's eye as it's handled. Crisp, perhaps from its recent washing and careful folding. Or softened, by countless cycles of wear and care. The fibers, spun from the flax plant, possess a unique integrity, a subtle stiffness that nevertheless drapes beautifully. As the garment is slipped over the head, initial coolness against the skin is quickly replaced by a comforting warmth. A breathable embrace that will last throughout the day. This simple act of dressing, repeated day after day, year after year, forms an unconscious meditation, a series of deliberate, unhurried movements that speak of self-care and respect for the materials at hand. Once the undergarment is on, other pieces of the daily wardrobe might follow, many of them also crafted from linen. For women, a linen coif or head covering might be carefully pinned into place. Its smooth surface framing the face, keeping hair tidy and out of the way for the day's tasks. For men, a linen shirt might be smoothed down, its cuffs perhaps fastened with a simple tie. Each piece, handled with a quiet competence, adds another layer of comfort and utility. There's no rush, no hurried fumbling. These are movements born of long practice, movements that foster a sense of calm readiness. Stepping out of Thebachamber, our journey through the daily cycle of linen often leads us towards the heart of the home, the kitchen or communal living space. Here, linen takes on a more practical, yet no less significant role. The preparation of the morning meal, simple though it might be, involves a multitude of interactions with cloth. Before food is even thought of, hands are washed, and a linen hand towel, perhaps hanging by the water basin, is used to gently dry them. The absorbency of the fabric, its ability to wick moisture away, is a small, quiet miracle in the daily grind. Then comes the laying of the table. Whether it's a rough-hewn plank table in a humble cottagier, a more polished surface in a lordess hall, the act of covering it with a clean linen tablecloth transforms the space. Imagine reaching for the carefully folded cloth from a chest, feeling its substantial weight, the neat creases from its last storage. With a practiced flourish, it is unfurled. It's a sound as subtle as soft rustle, a faint snap as it opens. Then, with both hands, it is smoothed across the table's surface, its edges straightened, its folds coaxed into submission. This isn't just about aesthetics, it's about cleanliness, about respect for the food to be shared, and for the people who will gather around. The simple act elevates the meal from mere sustenance to a communal ritual. During the meal itself, linen continues its silent service. While individual napkins as we know them today were not universally common, the tablecloth itself often served this purpose, its edges perhaps pulled up for wiping fingermouths. For those of higher status, small pieces of linen might have been provided. Imagine the gentle dabbing of lips, the subtle swiping of a crumb from the table. Each interaction is momentary, unassuming, yet integral to the rhythm of the meal. Beyond the table, other pieces of linen are quietly at work. Kitchen cloths, often coarser in weave, might be used to wipe spills, to cradle warm bread, or to strain liquids. They are the unsung heroes of the medieval kitchen. Constantly present, constantly working, bearing the marks of their labor with quiet dignity. The scent of cooking food might mingle with the clean smell of the linen, creating a rich sensory tapestry. As the morning transitions into the main part of the day, linen continues to feature prominently in everyday life, often in unexpected ways. Consider the various forms of head coverings, not just for women, but for men too, particularly those engaged in manual labor or skilled crafts. A simple linen cap or coif would protect hair from dust, keep it out of the way, and absorb perspiration. The smooth, cool feel of the fabric against the scalp, subtle comfort throughout the long hours of work, is a testament to linen's versatility. For those involved in more delicate tasks such as scribes or embroiderers, finer linen might be used to protect parchment or precious threads from the oils of the hands, or to cushion a wrist as it works. Eventhi beds, once vacated, do not entirely lose their linen presence. Though not always made with the same meticulousness as a modern bed, the sheets might be smoothed, the blankets rearranged, creating an impression of order even in a small, bustling room. In many medieval homes, particularly smaller ones, the bed was not just for sleeping, it served as a place for sitting, for mending, for quiet conversation, even for receiving guests during illness. Thus, the linen covering maintained a certain presence throughout the day, a constant reminder of comfort and repose. As the day progresses and activities shift, so too does the state of our linen. The fresh crispness of the morning begins to yield to the inevitable marks of use. A wrinkle here, a faint smudge there, a subtle softening of the fabric that speaks of wear. This is not a failure, but simply the natural progression of its daily cycle. The chemise, once so pristine, now caressed the subtle scent of a day's exertion. The tablecloth, once flawlessly smooth, might bear a faint trace of spilled ale or the imprint of a hearty meal. And so, as each piece of linen fulfills its purpose, it eventually begins its journey towards the next stage, preparation for washing. This doesn't happen with the immediate urgency of our modern habits. There's no automatic washing machine waiting to swiftly absorb the day's dirt. Instead, there's a quiet accumulation, designated basket perhaps, or a simple pile in a corner of the chamber or scullery, slowly gathers the used cloths. The shift, the coif, the hand towel, the kitchen ragach in its turn is set aside. This act of setting aside is a mindful one. It acknowledges the linen's service and implicitly marks it for renewal. There's a gentle rhythm to this accumulation, a slow building anticipation for the cleansing ritual to come. As dusk begins to settle, casting long shadows across the floor, the day begins its winding down. The evening routine, much like the morning, is punctuated by the presence of linen. After a final meal, the tablecloth, if used, is gently removed. Perhaps it is shaken free of crumbs outside, or carefully folded and placed onto the to-be-washed pile. There's a quiet sense of closure in this act, signaling the end of the day's communal eating. Then, as the household prepares for sleep, linen once again takes center stage. The layers of outer garments are removed, often carefully folded or hung, and then, once more, we return to the foundational linen off the body. The day's chemise or shift is slipped off, perhaps exchanged for a fresh one for the night, simply laid aside with the other used items. The cool, clean linen of the bed, if it hasn't been disturbed throughout the day, offers an inviting embrace. If the sheets need refreshing, this might be the moment to smooth them once more, pulling them taut over the mattress, arranging them with care. The subtle rustle of the sheets as one settles down, the soft feel of the pillow beneath the head, often filled with straw or feathers, and encased in a linen pillowcase. These are the final, comforting contacts with linen before sleep descends. Throughout this entire daily cycle, from themament of waking to the final drift into slumber, linen is a constant, quiet presence. It moves with the inhabitants of the medieval home, a silent witness to their lives. It offers comfort, utility, and a subtle sense of order. There is an unspoken understanding, an almost symbiotic relationship between people and cloth. The hands that spin the flax, the hands that weave the threads, the hands that cut and sew the garments, the hands that wash and fold, and finally, the hands that use and care for it day in and day out all, are connected by this enduring, versatile fabric. There's a profound, meditative quality to this repetitive dance with linen. It's a careful folding of a clean coif, the smoothing off a tablecloth, the draping of a fresh sheet. Each action is deliberate, unhurried, in a world without the myriad distractions and conveniences of our own. These simple domestic tasks took on a greater significance. They weren't just chores, they were opportunities for quiet focus, for gentle rhythm, for creating a tangible sense of order in an often chaotic world. The feel of the fabric, the faint sounds it made, the visual satisfaction of a neatly arranged item, these were small, sensory anchors in the daily flow of life. The daily cycle of linen, then, is not just a historical account of fabric use. It is a quiet study in intentional living, in finding peace and order within the confines of domestic routine. It's a reminder that beauty and comfort can be found in the most humble of materials and the most repetitive of actions. It underscores the quiet labor that underpins every home and the deep, abiding comfort that comes from clean, well-tended cloth. This predictable ebb and flow, this constant presence and gentle renewal, weaves a profound rhythm into the fabric of medieval life, inviting us to find our own sense of calm in its steady, quiet unfolding. This daily ritual sets the stage perfectly for the next step in linen's journey, the ritual of washing and drying. This daily ritual sets the stage perfectly for the next step in linen's journey, the ritual of washing and drying. After days or even weeks of serving its purpose, absorbing the traces of daily life, the gentle perspiration from a sleeper, the lingering scent of wood smoke, the occasional spill from a mealtha, linen reached a point where its freshness began to wane. It was a subtle shift, a quiet signal that its time for renewal had come. This wasn't merely about aesthetic cleanliness. In the medieval world, washing was a vital act of hygiene, preservation, and comfort, transforming soiled fabric back into a pristine state, ready to embrace the rhythm of life anew. Imagine, if you will, the accumulated laundry of a medieval household. Not the overflowing hampers we might know, but perhaps a growing pile in a designated corner, each item patiently awaiting its turn. The linen, once soft and crisp, would have become a little heavier, a little duller, carrying the faint, earthy scent of human activity and the environment it inhabited. There were no quick fixes, no automated cycles. The act of washing linen was a significant undertaking, a communal effort, and a profound connection to the natural world. It was a task that demanded time, strength, and an intimate understanding of the elements: water, fire, ash, and sun. The first, and perhaps most fundamental element in this ritual was water. Its source dictated much of the process. For many, the nearest river or stream was the most convenient option, offering a plentiful, if often chilly, supply of flowing water. The journey to the riverbank itself could be an event, with heavy wooden buckets or cloth sacks laden with soiled linen carried by hand, perhaps even by cart, to a chosen spot. For those without immediate access to a natural waterway, a well would be the lifeline, drawing water bucket by arduous bucket from deep within the earth. Or, for the truly resourceful, rainwater collected in barrels provided a soft, pure alternative, free from the mineral hardness that some well waters possessed. The effort involved in simply acquiring the vast quantities of water needed for apropos washing was immense, a quiet prelude to the labor yet to come. Once collected, much of this water would need to be heated. Imagine the scene. A crackling fire, perhaps in the hearth of the home. Or more likely, outdoors over an open flame, beneath a substantial cauldron or a large three-legged pot. The water would slowly warm, then begin to simmer, eventually reaching a rolling boil, releasing plumes of steam into the cool morning air. The air would thicken with the scent of wood smoke, mingling with the damp earth, creating an atmospheric backdrop to the impending work. This boiling water was not just for heat. It was crucial for activating the primary cleaning agent of the age. Lye. Lye, the unsung hero of medieval cleanliness, was derived from the simplest of ingredients, wood ash. After cooking, after warming the home, the ashes from the hearth were not discarded lightly. They were carefully collected, treasured for their transformateur. The process of creating lye was an art in itself, passed down through generations. A barrel or a large wooden tub would be prepared, often with a false bottom or a layer of straw, and sticks, designed to allow liquid to drain through while retaining the ash. The clean, fine ash from hardwood would be layered thickly into this container. Then slowly, carefully, boiling water would be poured over the ash. As the hot water permeated the ash, it leached out the alkaline compounds potassium carbonate, primarily creating a potent caustic solution. This was lye, a powerful alkali, capable of cutting through grease and dissolving dirt. The liquid would slowly trickle through the ash, collecting at the bottom a yellowish or brownish concoction, deceptively clear but brimming with chemical power. The strength of the lye was crucial. To weak, and it would be ineffective. To strong, and it could inicate fabrics or irritate the skin. Experienced hands could tell by touch, by the slipperiness, when the lye was just right. The air around the lye-making station might carry a faint, acrid scent, a premissie of impending cleanliness. With the lye prepared and the water heated, the true ritual of washing could begin, a process known as bucking. This was no quick rinse. It was a methodical, multi-stage operation. First, thus oiled linen would often be given a preliminary soak in cold water. This initial immersion helped to loosen superficial dirt and allowed the fibers to swell, preparing them for the deeper cleansing to come. Imagine hands plunging into the cold water, the sudden chill, the weight of the sodden cloth as it submerged. Next came the heart of the bucking process. A large, sturdy wooden tub, known as a bucking tub or laundry vat, would be brought into play. At its bottom, a layer of the dirtiest or heaviest linen might be placed. Then, a generous layer of wood ash, the same ash used to make the lye, or fresh ash if available, would be sprinkled over the linen. More linen, then more ash, building up layers like a strange, fibrous cake. This alternating layering was crucial, allowing the lye to penetrate evenly. Once the tub was filled with its careful arrangement of linen and ash, the hot lye water, slowly and deliberately, would be poured over the top. The hot, caustic lye would begin its descent, slowly seeping through the layers of ash and fabric, reacting with the grease and grime embedded within the linen fibers. A faint bubbling might be heard, a soft hiss, as the lye worked its magic. This steeping process could last for several hours, sometimes even overnight, allowing the lye to thoroughly penetrate and break down the accumulated dirt. Imagine the patient wait, the quiet observation of the tub, steam perhaps still rising from its surface, the air thick with the subtle scent of lye and damp fabric. The water, which started relatively clear, would gradually darken, testamento, the dirt being lifted from the cloth. Once the bucking was complete, the real physical labor began, agitation and scrubbing. The linen would be carefully lifted from the lye solution, heavy and saturated. It was then often transferredo, a clean large tub of fresh water, or taken directly to the riverbank. Here the process of pounding, scrubbing, and rubbing commenced. For this, a variety of simple tools might be employed. A battler or laundry paddle, A flat, wooden club would be used to beat the linen against a smooth, flat stone or a sturdy wooden board. The repetitive thudding sound, rhythmic and strong, would echo across the wash site. Each blow was designed to physically dislodge the loosened dirt and force the lye-laden water through the fabric. Hands, often protected by sturdy cloth or even just toughened by habit, would rub the linen vigorously against itself or against a textured surface. Imagine the feel of the wet linen, slippery with lye, the coarse texture of the cloth under the pads of the fingers. The effort required to manipulate the heavy waterlogged material. Stubborn stains might receive special attention, perhaps rushed with a coarse brush made of natural bristles, or even scrubbed with a handful of sand or coarse grass for extra abrasion. This was a full-body workout, requiring strength in the arms, back, and shoulders, a testament to the sheer physical demands of maintaining a clean household. The air would be filled with the sounds of splashing water, rhythmic thuds, and perhaps the low hum of conversation or song among those gathered for the chore. After the vigorous scrubbing, the linen, though cleaner, was still impregnated with dissolved dirt and the remnants of the lye. This led to the crucial stage of rinsing, a step that often involved large quantities of fresh, flowing water. If at a river, the linen would be held directly in the current, allowing the clean water to continuously flush away the impurities. Imagine dipping the linen into the clear stream, watching as the brown-tinged water streamed away, slowly becoming clearer with each rinse. If at a well, countless buckets of fresh water would be poured over the linen, squeezed through, and poured again until the water running off was visibly clear. This rinsing was not a quick task. It often required multiple changes of water, or prolonged exposure, the river's flow, ensuring that every trace of the caustic lye was removed. Leftover lye could irritate the skin or weaken the fabric over time. The feel of the linen would change as the lye was rinsed out, becoming less slippery, regaining some of its natural softness. The final rinse often felt like a moment of victory, the visual confirmation that the hard work had paid off and the linen was truly clean. Finally, after hours of soaking, bucking, scrubbing, and rinsing, came the wringing. The goal was to remove as much excess water as possible before drying, speeding up the process and preventing the linen from becoming misshapen by its own weight. This was another task requiring considerable strength. Two people might twist larger items, each holding an end and turning in opposite directions, squeezing out torrents of water. For smaller items, strong hands would twist and press, knotting the fabric until only residual dampness remained. The sound of water gushing from the twisted cloth, then slowly reducing to a trickle, was another satisfying auditory cue in this arduous process. The linen, now heavy with moisture but transformed, was ready for the embrace of the wind and sun. The drying of linen was an act of pure faith in nature. It demanded good weather, sunshine, a gentle breeze, and no threat of rain. When the conditions were right, the washed and wrung linen would be carried, still heavy, to a designated drying area. For many, this meant stretching lines between trees or posts. Much like clotheslines today, though perhaps less formally arranged, bushes, fences, or even simply sprawling the linen over clean grass or sun-warmed stones were also common methods. Imagine the spread of pristine white and off-white fabrics against the green of the fields or the blue of the sky, a visible testament to the day's labor. The sun was not just a dryer, also a natural bleach. Its ultraviolet rays helped to whiten the linen, removing any residual yellowing and leaving it dazzlingly bright. The wind, too, played its part, gently fluttering the fabric, circulating air and carrying away moisture. The air would be filled with the subtle scent of wet linen drying in the sun. A pure, clean fragrance utterly unlike the previous smells of the soiled cloth, or indeed many of the pervasive scents of medieval life. It was a smell of renewal, of freshness, of the natural world. The drying process was not without its challenges. Sudden changes in weather, an unexpected shower, or even just a long spell of cloudy. Damp days could prolong the drying, making the linen smell musty, or even risk mildew. In such cases, the linen might be brought indoors, carefully arranged near the warmth of a fire or hearth, though this carried the risk of absorbing smoke or drying unevenly. Protecting the drying linen from dust, from wandering animals, or from accidental splashes of mud was another constant consideration. It was an exercise in patience and vigilance, waiting for nature to complete the final stage of the cleaning ritual. The frequency of this grand washing ritual varied significantly. For the very wealthy, with a larger staff and ample resources, washing might occur more regularly. For most households, however, it was a less frequent, though equally vital event. Personal undergarments, shirts, smocks, and coifs, being in direct contact with body, would likely be washed every week or two, or at least as often as resources and weather allowed. Bed linen sheets and pillowcases might be changed and washed perhaps once a month, or even less frequently in poorer households. Outer garments, which were often made of wool, were rarely washed in the same manner, but linen linings or trims would be treated with care. Tablecloths and kitchen cloths, depending on their use and the size of the household, would fall somewhere in between. The concept of clean was functional and practical, perhaps less about daily pristine freshness and more about preventing accumulation of dirt and preserving the life of the valuable fabric. This extensive process was overwhelmingly the domain of women. Wives, daughters, and female servants would gather for this laborious task. It was often a communal activity, particularly if done by a river or at a shared well. Imagine the sounds, the rhythm of the battler, the splash of water, the splash of water of conversation. Perhaps even shared songs or stories, making the arduous work a little lighter. It was a time for community bonding, for sharing news, and for the quiet solidarity of shared labor. The hands that perform this work wear a strong, calloused, intimately familiar with the textures of wet cloth and the feel of the lye. Through the splashing and rubbing, the heaving and lifting, there was a profound, almost meditative quality to this ritual. Each step was deliberate, unhurried, demanding full attention. The mind could wander, yet the hands remained engaged, connected to the tangible task. The senses were fully alive. The earthy scent of the wet soil, the sharp temps of lye, the warmth of the sun on the skin, the coolness of the water, the rough texture of the fabric, the satisfying sight of water darkening with removed grime, and finally, the unparalleled scent of sun-dried linen. It was a compulsory experience, grounding the participants deeply in the present moment, in the physical reality of their world. The ritual of washing and drying linen, far from being a mere chore, was a fundamental part of medieval life. A rhythm of renewal thought paralleled the cycles of nature itself. It spoke of resilience, of resourcefulness, and of a deep connection to the materials that formed the fabric of daily existence. It transformed the mundane into something significant, imbuing the simple act of cleaning with a profound sense of purpose and satisfaction. And when the last piece of linen was finally dry, rustling gently in the breeze, crisp and clean and ready, it heralded the next satisfying stage of its journey, the tactile art of folding an act that brought order and beauty to the freshly renewed cloth. When the last piece of linen, kissed by sun and wind, finally rustled gently in the breeze, crisp and clean and ready, it heralded not an end, but the beginning of another deeply satisfying stage of its journey. This was the moment of transformation, quiet magic that brought order and beauty to the freshly renewed cloth, the tactile art of folding. It was a practice as ancient as the cloth itself, a ritual of precision and care that elevated a simple chore into a mindful craft, weaving a silent narrative of domesticity and diligence. Imagine, if you will, the setting for this quiet unfolding. The sun, perhaps, has begun its slow descent, casting long, golden fingers across the cottage floor, or perhaps it's a bright, clear morning, the air still fresh from the dawn. The heavy baskets, brimming with the soft bounty of laundered linen, would be carried indoors. This was often an indoor task, offering a respite from the elements, a return to the warmth and safety of the hearth, even if the fire itself was merely a bed of embers. A clean, smooth surface would be chosen, a sturdy wooden table scrubbed clean with sand and lye until its grain shone, or perhaps a large, flat stone slab in the kitchen, cool and unyielding. Sometimes, for larger pieces, the bed itself, stripped of its previous coverings, would serve as the expansive stage for this intricate dance of fabric and hands. The space would be calm, perhaps quiet, save for the gentle crackle of the dying fire or the distant bleating of a sheep. The hands that had toiled in the river, strong and capable, now moved with a different grace, softened precision, ready to coax each rumpled piece into a state of elegant repose. The linen itself, at this stage, was a symphony for the senses. It carried the faint, inimitable scent of sunshine and fresh air, a clean, almost ethereal fragrance, thathented at meadows and open skies. It was crisp, holding a slight resistance under the fingers, yet yielding with a whisper. Each weave, each thread felt alive, renewed. There was the finer, almost translucent linen, destined for undergarments, for shifts and coifs, delicate against the skin. Then there was the slightly coarser, more robust weave of tunics and outer garments, promising warmth and durability. Tablecloths, large and expansive, felt smooth and cool, ready to grace a simple wooden board. And the bed linens, substantial and comforting, would sigh softly as they were handled, promising restful slumber. The sheer volume of it all could be daunting, pile after pile of cloth. Each piece demanding individual attention, a quiet conversation between the hands and the fabric. Yet, within this abundance, lay a deep satisfaction. The tangible proof of labor well spent, of resources carefully managed. The purpose of folding, you see, extended far beyond mere practicality. Of course, it made the linen easier to store, protecting it from dust and damp, minimizing creases for future wear. But there was a deeper, more profound intention at play. It was an act of respect for the materials, a reverence for the threads that had been spun, woven, and labored over. It was an imposition of order upon the world, a small, yet significant gesture of control in lives often dictated by the whims of nature and circumstance. A neatly folded pile of linen spoke volumes about the diligence of the household, the care taken by the women who managed its rhythm. It was a visual testament to cleanliness, to preparedness, a quiet promise of comfort and decorum. Each fold was a deliberate intention, a tiny, repetitive ritual that brought not just physical neatness, but also a sense of psychological tranquility, a steadying presence in the heart of the home. The philosophy behind the fold was one of patience and deliberation. This was not a task to be rushed, not a series of quick, careless movements. Each piece was given its due, laid out with care, smoothed with the palm of a hand. The process demanded precision, an eye for straight edges, for crisp corners, for symmetrical halves. It was a meditative practice, the hands engaging in rhythmic repetition, the mind perhaps free to wander, yet always tethered to the tangible reality of the cloth. Imagine the slow, sweeping motion of smoothing a large tablecloth, feeling the cool fabric glide beneath your hand, pressing out every wrinkle, every trace of disarray. Then, the careful alignment of one edge against another, the gentle crease forming with a soft sigh of displaced air. It was a dance of geometry, transforming a formless expanse into a perfectly proportioned square or rectangle ready for its place in the chest. This was the true art of folding. It was an intuitive craft, passed down from mother to daughter, from elder to apprentice. Not through written instruction, but through observation and practice, through the quiet guidance of experienced hands. The lessons were subtle. How to feel the grain of the fabric, how much pressure to apply, how to anticipate the way the cloth would fall. It was an act of mindfulness, demanding full attention to the present moment, to the delicate interplay of fabric and air and touch. There was a quiet dignity in the task, a sense of purposeful creation. Each folded piece was a small triumph, a testament to skill and dedication, contributing to the harmonious rhythm of the household. It wasn't just about getting the job done. It was about doing it well, with an innate understanding of the material and a deep respect for the craft. The rhythmic movement of hands, the continuous unfolding and refolding, the quest for perfect symmetry, all contributed to a profound sense of inner calm, a quiet satisfaction that resonated through the very fibers of being. Let us delve into the specifics, then, of how these different pieces of linen would be coaxed into order, each with its own particular demands and inherent grace. Consider first the smaller items, the delicate coifs that framed faces, the simple caps that covered heads, the square handkerchiefs tucked into sleeves. These would be laid flat upon the surface, often in sets or stacks. A coif perhaps would be smoothed, its ties carefully aligned. It might then be folded lengthwise, perhaps once or twice, creating a neat rectangular package. Handkerchiefs, by their very nature, lent themselves to simple, elegant squares. Folded once in half, then once more, perhaps even a third time for a truly compact form. Each crease sharp, each edge perfectly aligned. These were the quick, satisfying folds, the little victories in the larger battle against disarray, each small item adding to a growing pile of pristine readiness. The swift, sure movements of the hands, the soft patting down of the cloth, the immediate visual reward of neatness. These were the small joys that punctuated the task. Then came the personal garments, the shifts worn closest to the skin, soft and absorbent. Tunics, outer layers that might be made of linen or a linen blend. These required a more thoughtful approach, a consideration for their eventual wear. A shift, often a simple, voluminous garment, would be laid out flat, its length a testament to the weaver's craft. The sleeves, if present, would be carefully folded inwards across the chest, perhaps meeting in the middle or overlapping slightly, creating a narrower, more manageable shape. Then, the entire garment would be folded lengthwise, often in thirds, creating a long, slim rectangle. Finally, this rectangle would be folded again, perhaps in half or in thirds, depending on its length and the available storage space. The goal was to minimize creasing, to preserve the garment's shape, ensuring it would emerge from the chest ready to be worn with only a shake. The careful smoothing of the fabric as each fold was made, the gentle press of the palms along the edges, helped to settle the threads and set the crease, ensuring that the garment maintained its newly acquired order. Table linens presented their own unique challenge and charm. Napkins, perhaps the most numerous of these, were typically square. Like handkerchiefs, they would be folded into precise squares, often in quarters or eighths, forming compact, sturdy blocks of fabric. Tablecloths, however, were expansive, often requiring the combined efforts of two individuals. Imagine two women standing opposite each other, each holding two corners of a large, clean tablecloth. They would pull it taut, a gentle snap of air escaping as the fabric stretched, ensuring it was free of wrinkles. Then, with practiced coordination, they would fold it in half, precisely aligning the edges, walking their hands along the crease. This might be repeated several times, reducing the vast expanse of cloth into a more manageable, yet still substantial rectangle. The final folds would likely be done by one person, pressing out any remaining air, ensuring the finished piece was a flat, unblemished surface, ready to be laid out for a meal. The collaborative nature of this task, the shared effort, and the unspoken understanding between two people added another layer of quiet connection to the folding ritual. The satisfaction was palpable as the large, unruly cloth became a perfectly formed, majestic rectangle, a testament to teamwork and careful handling. Bed linens, the sheets that protected mattresses, the pillow covers that cradled heads, were often the bulkiest, demanding the most physical effort. Like tablecloths, sheets would frequently require two people to manage their size. The same careful stretching and alignment, the walking of hands along the creases, would transform these large pieces into neat rectangular bundles. Pillow covers, simpler in their construction, would be folded in half or quarters, creating soft, plump squares or rectangles. These items, destined for the bottom of the linen chest, represented the promise of rest and comfort, and their careful folding was an act of preparing for the quiet hour soft sleep. The substantial weight of the bed linens, the soft rustle as they were handled, the tactile reassurance of their clean density, all contributed to a sense of security and domestic well-being. And then there were the special items, handled with an almost sacred reverence. The altar cloths destined for the church, perhaps, or finely embroidered linens, gifts, or heirlooms. These pieces, often adorned with delicate stitching or precious materials, would be treated with the utmost care. Folded gently to protect their embellishments, perhaps even laid with protective layers of finer, unadorned linen between their folds. For these, the silence of the folding space would be even more profound, the movements even more deliberate, reflecting the value and significance of the cloth itself. Throughout this entire process, the senses were fully engaged, creating a rich tapestry of experience. The sound of the folding was subtle but ever present, the soft, dry rustle of the fabric as it was smoothed and manipulated. A gentle sigh as air was pressed from between its layers, the faint thwack as a hand patted down a crease. It was a quiet orchestration, a symphony of cloth and air. The sight was transformative, watching a crumpled, shapeless mass slowly take on geometric form, transforming into precise squares, elegant rectangles. The way the light caught the clean, crisp surface, highlighting the subtle variations in the weave, the satisfying aggression of each aligned edge. The pile of folded linen growing steadily taller, a visual testament to order and completion. The touch was perhaps the most intimate of all these sensations. The cool, smooth feel of the freshly dried fabric beneath the palms, the crispness that gave way to a yielding softness. The slight resistance as the threads were coaxed into a new alignment. The warmth of the hands against the cool linen, the familiar texture of the weave passing through the fingertips. Each crease formed under the gentle pressure of the palm, each smoothed surface a quiet caress. And the smell, that lingering, evocative scent of sun and fresh air, perhaps mingled with the faint, comforting aroma of wood smoke from the hearth, or the subtle, sweet fragrance of dried herbs, if sachets of lavender or rosemary were used to scent the linen chest. It was a fragrance that promised cleanliness, comfort, and the enduring warmth of a well-kept home. Indeed, there was a profoundly meditative aspect to this repetitive folding. The rhythmic nature of the task, the steady engagement of the hands, allowed the mind to settle, to find a quiet focus. It was a time for calm reflection, a gentle entrento, a state of mindful presence. The worries of the day, the demands of other chores could recede, allowing a sense of quietude to envelop the folder. Each fold was an anchor, grounding the individual in the present moment, in the physical reality of the cloth and the hands that shaped it. In a world often fraught with uncertainty and hardship, this simple act of bringing order to fabric offered a small, yet significant, sense of control and accomplishment, a quiet triumph over chaos. It was a way to nurture the self, even as one nurtured the home, a silent communion with the very essence of domesticity. While the boisterous communal activity of washing might involve many, the folding was often a more solitary affair, or perhaps a shared moment between a mother and daughter, a quiet passing down of skill and tradition. Imagine the scene. A mother, her hands weathered by years of labor, guiding the smaller, less experienced hands of her daughter, showing her the subtle technique for aligning a seam, the gentle pressure needed to set a crease. These were moments of silent teaching, of shared purpose, where the rhythm of the work created an unspoken bond, strengthening the fabric of family as much as the fabric of the linen itself. It was a quiet expression of care, of preparation for the future, teaching the younger generation the enduring value of diligence and attention to detail. And so, as the last piece found its form, folded with meticulous care, the satisfaction was profound. The baskets, once overflowing, were now empty, their contents transformed into neat, orderly stacks. Each stack, a testament to patience and skill, stood ready for its next destination, the dark, fragrant interior of a wooden chest or cupboard. This quiet triumph, this imposition of beauty and order upon the mundane, was a deeply fulfilling moment. It was the promise of clean comfort, of preparedness, a silent song of domestic repose echoing through the quiet hearth. The tactile art of folding was not merely a chore, but an intimate dance with the materials of life, an act that imbued simple cloth with purpose, value, and a quiet, enduring rhythm that prepared it for its journey from pile to stack and into the methodical arrangement of the home. And so, with each piece folded, a new phase began. The journey from the warmth of the sun-drenched courtyard or the hearthside table, where the crisp linen had yielded to the careful hands, now led to the quiet, shaded corner of the home. This was the moment of arrangement, the thoughtful placement of each precisely folded piece, transforming a temporary pile into a lasting stack. A testament to domestic order, a silent promise of future comfort. The tactile art of folding was not merely a chore, but an intimate dance with the materials of life, an act that imbued simple cloth with purpose, value, and a quiet, enduring rhythm that prepared it for its journey from pile to stack and into the methodical arrangement off the home. The linen, now transformed from soft, pliable fabric into neat, geometric forms, awaited its final placement. It was a procession of quiet dignity, each bundle carried with a gentle reverence. Perhaps in a large, shallow basket woven from willow or straw, or simply cradled in the arms. The route might be short, from the center of a sunlit room to a corner chest, or it might involve a journey through cool, shadowed passages, perhaps down a stone hallway to a dedicated storeroom, where the air hung heavy with the scent of dried herbs and seasoned wood. This was not a hurried task, but a measured progression, a final act of care after the labor of washing and theoristry of folding. Imagine, if you will, the destination. A chest perhaps crafted from stout oak, its surface smoothed by generations of hands, its dark wood gleaming faintly in the subdued light. These chests were not mere containers. They were vital pieces of furniture, often richly carved, sometimes banded with iron, and built to last for centuries, carrying not just linen, but the accumulated history and hopes of a family. The lid, heavy and solid, would be lifted slow, sometimes with a soft creak of ancient hinges, revealing an interior that was a world unto itself. Within these chests lay the heart of the medieval household's textile wealth. The air inside would be cool, still, and subtly fragrant. Perhaps the wood itself, if it were cedar, lent a protective aroma, a natural deterrent to moths and other small, unseen nibblers. Or, as was common, small sachets of dried lavender rosemary. Or wormwood would have been scattered among the layers, their gentle, earthy perfume infusing the linen with a delicate freshness that spoke of sun-drenched fields and fragrant gardens. Even in the deepest months of winter, this careful infusion of scent was not just for pleasure. It was a crucial part of preservation, a silent guardian against the ravages of time and pest. The methodical arrangement began with selection. Not all linen was created equal, nor was it destined for the same storage space. The fine, smooth bedsheets, perhaps woven with delicate patterns or embroidered along the hems, would be placed in the most protected, most hallowed spaces, often at the very bottom of a chest or in a separate, specially designated compartment. These weareth items reserved for daily comfort, but also for special occasions for guests, for the quiet ritual of marital intimacy. Their placement was a matter of practical consideration, yes, but also a reflection of their value and the esteem in which they were held. Next might come the undergarments, the chemises and shirts, simpler in weave and often plainer in design, but equally essential. These would form their own neat stacks, perhaps in a different section of the same chest, or in a smaller coffer, dedicated solely to personal wear. Each piece, folded with precision, would be lifted and lowered into place, one upon the other, building a stable, uniform stack. The weight of each subsequent piece gently compressing the one beneath it, encouraging the fibers to settle, to hold their form, to become a solid block of carefully ordered fabric. Consider the rhythm of this stacking, the gentle lift, the brief suspension in the air, the careful alignment, the soft whisper off cloth against cloth as it settled. It was a quiet, almost meditative process, requiring focus and a steady hand. There was no rushing, no haphazard tossing. Each stack was a small architectural achievement, a column of softness, designed to stand firm, unyielding until its contents were needed again. The goal was not merely to put things away, but to store them in a way that honored the labor that had gone into their creation and maintenance, preserving their freshness and extending their lifespan. Beyond thepersonal and bed linens, there were the household cloths, the table linens, ranging from grand tablecloths for feasts to smaller, everyday coverings, the various towels for washing and drying, and the utilitarian cloths used in the kitchen or for cleaning. These too found their place in the methodical arrangement. Often, they would be stored in larger, less ornate chests, or perhaps on open shelves in a pantry or larder, where they were more easily accessible for daily use. Even here, principle of order remained paramount. Tablecloths with tablecloths, napkins with napkins, each neatly folded, each contributing to the overall sense of a well-managed home. The shelves themselves were often simple, sturdy affairs of plain wood, perhaps scrubbed clean with lye and sand, imparting their own subtle, clean scent to the air. On these shelves, the stacks might be taller, less constrained by the confines of a lidded chest, standing proudly in their disciplined rows. The visual impact of these orderly stacks cannot be overstated. In a world where so much was unpredictable, where the elements in human endeavor often felt beyond control, these perfectly arranged piles of clean linen were a tangible manifestation of domestic mastery, a quiet declaration of competence and care. Imagine running your hand lightly over the top of such a stack. The smooth, cool feel of the topmost layer, the subtle resistance of the compressed fabric beneath. There was a profound satisfaction in this physical interaction with order, a sense of rightness and the quiet discipline of it all. It was not just about utility, it was about the aesthetics of domesticity, the beauty of a home meticulously kept. A testament to the enduring human desire for grace and harmony, even in the most mundane aspects of life. The methodical arrangement also served a practical purpose in extending the life of the linen. When fabrics are folded and stored carefully, they are less prone to creasing, tearing, or attracting pests. The regular air circulation, even within a closed chest, was important, and the periodic refolding and inspection of stored linen was a common practice. This wasn't merely a task. It was an act of vigilance, ensuring that these valuable textiles remained in pristine condition. A medieval household's linen store represented a significant investment, both in terms of material cost and the immense labor required to produce and maintain it. Protecting that investment was a vital aspect of household management. Consider the impact of pulling out a piece of this carefully stored linen. Perhaps a crisp, fresh sheet for a newly made bed, or a clean tablecloth for the evening meal. The faint, sweet scent of lavender might waft up, a gentle reminder of the care taken. The absence of wrinkles, the smooth, even surface, all spoke of meticulous attention, transforming the simple act of using a piece of fabric into a small, everyday luxury. It was a tangible connection to the effort and intention that had been poured into its preparation, enriching the experience of its use. The larger medieval home, especially that of a manor or castle, would have several dedicated storage areas. The linen draper's room or a specific linen chest might be mentioned in household inventories. These were not casual spaces, but well-managed repositories, often overseen by a senior female member of the household, such as the lady of the house herself, or a trusted housekeeper. Their knowledge of the household textiles, their condition, and their proper storage was an invaluable skill, a cornerstone of efficient domestic management. In more humble dwellings, the storage might be simpler. Perhaps a single large chest that served multiple purposes, holding clothing, valuables, and linen alike. Yet even here, the principle of methodical arrangement would likely hold sway. The best linens might be wrapped in a protective cloth or placed at the bottom, carefully separated from coarser items. The instinct for order, for preserving what was valuable, transcends social status. It is a fundamental human trait. The neat stack, the careful placement, these were expressions of care, regardless of the size or opulence of the home. The concept of a linen press also comes to mind, though perhaps more common in later centuries. Its origins lie in this desire for perfectly smooth, uncreased fabric. Even without a dedicated press, the gentle weight of one folded piece upon another, within a sturdy chest, served a similar purpose, helping to set the folds and keep the linen wonderfully smooth. It was a subtle, passive form of pressing, a constant, gentle pressure working to maintain the pristine condition of the fabric. As the last folded item found its rightful place, and the lid of the chest descended with a soft, final thud, or the last shelf was filled, there was a profound sense of completion. The chaotic pile of freshly laundered linen, once a joyful but demanding sight, had been tamed. It had been sorted, folded, and meticulously arranged, transformed into a tranquil landscape of ordered stacks. This was more than just tidiness. It was the imposition of human will and skill upon the natural world, a small but significant victory against entropy. The quiet hearth, the gentle flicker of a distant lamp, the stillness of the room after the day's tasks. These elements combined to amplify the feeling of reposant accomplishment. The stored linen was a promise of comfort for the morrow, a tangible representation of a well-run home, and a silent testament to the patience and diligence of those who tended it. This methodical arrangement was not just an endpoint. It was a preparation, a quiet pause in the endless cycle of domestic life, ensuring that the threads of comfort and order were woven securely into the very fabric of existence. The scent of wood and dried herbs, the cool feel of the stacked cloth, the silent rows of neat perfection, these were the sensory anchors of a quiet, enduring rhythm, a rhythm that brought solace and stability to the heart of the medieval home. It was a rhythm that resonated with the very pulse of domesticity, a gentle, comforting hum of preparedness and quiet grace. And so, with each piece folded, a new phase began. The journey from the warmth of the sun-drenched courtyard, or the hearthside table, where the crisp linen had yielded to the careful hands, now led to the quiet, shaded corners of the home. This was the moment of arrangement, the thoughtful placement of each precisely folded piece, transforming a temporary pile into a lasting stack. A testament to domestic order, a silent promise of future comfort. The tactile art of folding was not merely a chore, but an intimate dance with the materials of life, an act that imbued simple cloth with purpose, value, and a quiet, enduring rhythm that prepared it for its journey from pile to stack and into the methodical arrangement of the home. The linen, now transformed from soft, pliable fabric into neat geometric forms, awaited its final placement. It was a procession of quiet dignity, each bundle carried with a gentle reverence. Perhaps in a large, shallow basket woven from willow or straw, or simply cradled in the arms. The route might be short from the center of a sunlit room to a corner chest, or it might involve a journey through cool, shadowed passages, perhaps down a stone hallway to a dedicated storeroom where the air hung heavy with the scent of dried herbs and seasoned wood. This was not a hurried task, but a measured progression, a final act of care after the labor of washing gan, the artistry of folding. Imagine, if you will, the destination. A chest, perhaps crafted from stout oak, its surface smoothed by generations of hands, its dark wood gleaming faintly in the subdued light. These chests were not mere containers. They were vital pieces of furniture, often richly carved, sometimes banded with iron, and built to last for centuries, carrying not just linen, but the accumulated history and hopes of a family. The lid, heavy and solid, would be lifted slowly, sometimes with a soft creak of ancient hinges, revealing an interior that was a world unto itself. Within these chests lay the heart of the medieval household's textile wealth. The air inside would be cool, still, and subtly fragrant. Perhaps the wood itself, if it were cedar, lent a protective aroma, a natural deterrent to moths and other small, unseen nibblers, or, as was common, small sachets of dried lavender, rosemary, or wormwood would have been scattered among the layers, their gentle, earthy perfume, infusing the linen with a delicate freshness that spoke of sun-drenched fields and fragrant gardens, even in the deepest months of winter. This careful infusion of scent was not just for pleasure. It was a crucial part of preservation, a silent guardian against the ravages of time and pest. The methodical arrangement began with selection. Not all linen was created equal, nor was it destined for the same storage space. The fine, smooth bed sheets, perhaps woven with delicate patterns or embroidered along the hems, would be placed in the most protected, most hallowed spaces, often at the very bottom of a chest, or in a separate, specially designated compartment. These were the items reserved for daily comfort, but also for special occasions, for guests, or for the quiet ritual of marital intimacy. Their placement was a matter of practical consideration. Yes, but also a reflection of their value and the esteem in which they were held. Next might come the undergarments, the chemises and shirts, simpler in weave and often plainer in design, but equally essential. These would form their own neat stacks, perhaps in a different section of the same chest, or in a smaller coffer dedicated solely to personal wear. Each piece, folded with precision, would be lifted and lowered into place, one upon the other, building a stable, uniform stack. The weight of each subsequent piece gently compressing the one beneath it, encouraging the fibers to settle, to hold their form, to become a solid block of carefully ordered fabric. Consider the rhythm of this stacking. The gentle lift, the brief suspension in the air, the careful alignment, the soft whisper of cloth against cloth as it settled. It was a quiet, almost meditative process requiring focus and a steady hand. There was no rushing, no haphazard tossing. Each stack was a small architectural achievement, a column of softness. It's designed to stand firm and unyielding until its contents were needed again. The goal was not merely to put things away, but to store them in a way that honored the labor that had gone into their creation and maintenance, preserving their freshness and extending their lifespan. Beyond the personal and bed linens, there were the household cloths, the table linens ranging from grand tablecloths for feasts to smaller everyday coverings, the various towels for washing and drying, and the utilitarian cloths used in the kitchen or for cleaning. These too found their place in the methodical arrangement. Often they would be stored in larger, less ornate chests, or perhaps on open shelves in a pantry or larder, where they were more easily accessible for daily use. Even here, the principle of order remained paramount. Tablecloths with tablecloths, napkins with napkins, each neatly folded, each contributing to the overall sense of a well-managed home. The shelves themselves were often simple, sturdy affairs of plain wood, perhaps scrubbed clean with lye and sand, imparting their own subtle, clean scent to the air. On these shelves, the stacks might be taller, less constrained by the confines of a lidded chest, standing proudly in their disciplined rows. The visual impact of these orderly stacks cannot be overstated. In a world where so much was unpredictable, where the elements in human endeavor often felt beyond control, these perfectly arranged piles of clean linen were a tangible manifestation of domestic mastery, a quiet declaration of competence and care. Imagine running your hand lightly over the top of such a stack, the smooth, cool feel of Thetamost layer, the subtle resistance of the compressed fabric beneath.
Ow.
There was a profound satisfaction in this physical interaction with order, a sense of rightness in the quiet discipline of it all. It was not just about utility, it was about the aesthetics of domesticity, the beauty of a home meticulously kept. A testament to the enduring human desire for grace and harmony, even in the most mundane aspects of life. The methodical arrangement also served a practical purpose in extending the life of linen. When fabrics are folded and stored carefully, they are less prone to creasing, tearing, or attracting pests. The regular air circulation, even within a closed chest, was important, and the periodic refolding and inspection of stirred linen was a common practice. This wasn't merely a task. It was an act of vigilance, ensuring that these valuable textiles remained in pristine condition. A medieval household's linen store represented a significant investment, both in terms of material cost and the immense labor required to produce and maintain it. Protecting that investment was a vital aspect of household management. Consider the impact of pulling out a piece of this carefully stored linen, perhaps a crisp, fresh sheet for a newly made bed, or a clean tablecloth for the evening meal. The faint, sweet scent of lavender might waft up, a gentle reminder of the care taken. The absence of wrinkles, the smooth, even surface all, spoke of meticulous attention, transforming the simple act of using a piece of fabric into a small, everyday luxury. It was a tangible connection to the effort and intention that had been poured into its preparation, enriching the experience of its use. This deep sense of purpose imbued the entire process, from washing to folding to stacking. It wasn't just about cleanliness, it was about respect for the materials, respect for the work, and respect for the people who would use these items. The linen, once raw flax, then thread, then woven cloth, had undergone a journey of transformation, culminating in its ordered repose within the household stores. Each stack represented a pause, a moment of stillness before the next cycle of use, soiling, and renewal began. The larger medieval home, especially that of a manor or castle, would have several dedicated storage areas. The linen draperess room, or a specific linen chest, might be mentioned in household inventories. These were not casual spaces, but well-managed repositories. It's often overseen by a senior female member of the household, such as the lady of the house herself, or a trusted housekeeper. Their knowledge of the household textiles, their condition, and their proper storage was an invaluable skill, a cornerstone of efficient domestic management. In more humble dwellings, the storage might be simpler. Perhaps a single large chest that served multiple purposes, holding clothing, valuables, and linen alike. Yet even here, the principle of methodical arrangement would likely hold sway. The best linens might be wrapped in a protective cloth or placed at the bottom, carefully separated from coarser items. The instinct for order, for preserving what was valuable, transcends social status. It is a fundamental human trait. The neat stack, the careful placement, these were expressions of care, regardless of the size or opulence of the home. The concept of a linen press also comes to mind. Though perhaps more common in later centuries, its origins lie in this desire for perfectly smooth, uncreased fabric. Even without a dedicated press, the gentle weight of one folded piece upon another, within a sturdy chest, served a similar purpose, helping to set the folds and keep the linen wonderfully smooth. It was a subtle, passive form of pressing, a constant, gentle pressure working to maintain the pristine condition of the fabric. As the last folded item found its rightful place, and the lid of the chest descended with a soft, final thud, or the last shelf was filled, there was a profound sense of completion. The chaotic pile of freshly laundered linen, once a joyful but demanding had been tamed. It had been sorted, folded, and meticulously arranged, transformed into a tranquil landscape of ordered stacks. This was more than just tidiness. It was the imposition of human will and skill upon the natural world, a small but significant victory against entropy. The quiet hearth, the gentle flicker of a distant lamp, the stillness of the room after the day's tasks, these elements combined to amplify the feeling of repose and accomplishment. The storied linen was a promise of comfort for the morrow, a tangible representation of a well-run home, and a silent testament to the patience and diligence of those who tended it. This methodical arrangement was not just an endpoint. It was a preparation, a quiet pause in the endless cycle of domestic life, ensuring that the threads of comfort and order were woven securely into the very fabric of existence. The scent of wood and dried herbs, the cool feel of the stacked cloth, the silent rows of neat perfection. These were the sensory anchors of a quiet, enduring rhythm, a rhythm that brought solace and stability to the heart of the medieval home. It was a rhythm that resonated with the very pulse of domesticity, a gentle, comforting hum of preparedness and quiet grace. Imagine the subtle variations in these stacks, the slightly thicker weave of a winter sheet, nestled beside the finer, lighter fabric of a summer undergarment. Each textile had its own story, its own season of use, its own specific purpose within the household's intricate web of daily life. The careful placement recognized and honored these distinctions, ensuring that when the time came, the right piece could be easily retrieved, unmarred and ready for its next duty. This granular attention to detail transformed the mere act of storage into an act of thoughtful foresight, a silent dialogue with the future needs of the family. The very act of opening a chest or cupboard filled with such carefully arranged linen wool had been an experience in itself. A gentle rush of cool, fragrant air, the sight of pristine stacks bathed in soft light, it was a glimpse into the domestic heart of the home, a tableau of order and preparedness. This visual and olfactory reward reinforced the value of the methodical arrangement, instilling a quiet pride in the housekeeper and a comforting assurance in all who beheld it. It spoke of a home that was cared for, a household that was secure, a haven against the outside world. Beyond the immediate practicalities, there was a deeper, almost philosophical aspect to this methodical arrangement. In an age where life could be brutal and unpredictable, the creation and maintenance of such ordered beauty within the home offered a profound sense of control and peace. It was a small pocket of perfection in an imperfect world, a testament to the human spirit's enduring quest for harmony. Each neatly folded, precisely stacked piece of linen was a small, tangible victory over chaos, a gentle assertion of human agency. The sheer volume of linen in a wealthier medieval household would have been substantial, necessitating considerable storage space and ongoing organization. Dowries often included significant quantities of household linen, a reflection of its value and the labor required to produce it. These cherished pieces, sometimes passed down through generations, held not only monetary worth, but also sentimental value, imbued with the memories and hands of those who had cared for them. Their methodical arrangement ensured their longevity, allowing these heirlooms to continue their journey through time, carrying whispered stories within their folds. Consider the hands that performed this final act of arrangement. Hands that had perhaps spun the flax, woven the cloth, or spent hours over the washtub. These hands, now calloused and capable, gently laid each piece to rest, a final benediction upon their work. The repetitive movements, the focus on alignment and stability, would have fostered a sense of deep calm, a meditative state where the mind could wander or simply rest in the quiet rhythm of the task. It was a moment of inner stillness, mirrored by the quiet stillness of the organized linen itself. This systematic approach to storage also facilitated rotation, by ensuring that older linens were used before newer ones, or that all items in a category received regular use. The household could prevent fabrics from deteriorating due to prolonged disuse. This was a subtle but important aspect of sustainability, a way to maximize the life of every precious thread. The methodical arrangement was static. It was a dynamic system, supporting the continuous flow of textiles through washing, folding, use, and repose. The light within these storage spaces would likely be dim, preserving the colors of any dyed or embroidered linens and protecting the fibers from the fading and weakening effects of direct sunlight. A cool, dark, and dry environment was the ideal, a silent vault protecting the household's textile treasures. The closing of a chest lid, the drawing of a cordon over shelves, these were gestures of protection, closing the ordered stacks in a cocoon of safety, awaiting their next emergence. And so, as the day's light faded and the quiet of the medieval home deepened, the last act of methodical arrangement would conclude. The baskets were empty, the folding surfaces cleared, and the storage spaces were filled with their carefully arranged bounty. Each stack stood as a silent guardian of comfort, a tangible expression of care and foresight. It was an enduring rhythm, woven into the very fabric of daily life, preparing the home for rest and renewing the promise of order for the days yet to come. The journey from pile to stack was complete, marking a moment of quiet triumph, a harmonious conclusion to the diligent work of the household, ready for the cycle to begin anew. As the last of the linen found its place, nestled in chests and stacked on shelves, a hush would descend upon the medieval home. The diligent work, the focused precision of folding and arranging, had brought forth not just order, but a deep sense of domestic tranquility. It was in this moment, as dusk deepened and the world outside began its retreat into shadow, that the true purpose of such meticulous care revealed itself. This was the threshold into a quiet hearth, domesticity and repose, where the tangible presence of organized linen underscored the profound comfort of a home preparing for sleep. Imagine, if you will, the flickering glow of the hearth fire, the true heart of any medieval dwelling, now casting long, dancing shadows across neatly arranged space. The aroma of wood smoke, perhaps mingled with the faint scent of herbs drying overhead or the lingering traces of the evening meal, would fill the air. It was a scent of life, of warmth, of shelter. The sounds, too, would soften, the gentle crackle and pop of the burning logs. Perhaps the soft murmuring of a conversation drawing to a close, or the contented sighs of those settling in for the evening. The meticulous work of Thede, particularly the careful tending of the household linens, culminated in this sense of peaceful anticipation, a silent promise of comfort yet to come. The medieval hearth was more than just a source of heat. It was the nexus of family life, the center around which stories were told, meals were shared, and the day's events were recounted. As the light faded from the narrow windows, it was the hearth's embrace that truly defined the domestic sphere. And within this sphere, the carefully prepared linens held a quiet significance. They represented readiness, a state of preparedness for the body's need for rest, for the comfort of the next morning's clothes, for the clean cloth that would grace the table. They were the threads of continuity, woven into the very fabric of daily ritual. Consider the act of preparing for the night. The neatly folded stacks of bed linens, once pristine and airy from their time on the drying line, were now brought forth. The process of making a bed in medieval times, while perhaps less elaborate than our modern rituals, was no less significant. Clean sheets, often made of sturdy yet soft linen, would be smoothed over straw mattresses or feather beds. The very act of unfurling these large cloths, feeling their cool, smooth texture, would have been a soothing prelude to sleep. The distinct, fresh scent of washed linen, a smell often associated with cleanliness and care, would have permeated the sleeping quarters, a gentle invitation to repose. Blankets, perhaps woven of wool, and stored alongside the linen, would be carefully laid, their weight a comforting reassurance against the night's chill. Each fold, each smooth, deliberate motion of preparing the bed, echoed the methodical care taken earlier in the day. It was an extension of the same quiet dedication, ensuring that the body, weary from labor or travel, could find true solace. This physical comfort, provided by clean, well-maintained linen, was deeply intertwined with psychological security.
Ow.
In a world often harsh and unpredictable, the domestic haven offered a crucial sanctuary. The presence of abundant, clean linens was a tangible sign of a well-ordered, prosperous, and caring household. It spoke of foresight, of diligence, of the resources necessary to maintain such an essential element of daily life. To lay down on fresh sheets, to wake wrapped in a clean garment, was a subtle but profound luxury, a buffer against the world's uncertainties. It fostered a sense of well-being, a quiet assurance that within these walls, there was care, there was provision, there was safety.
The children, perhaps already drowsy by the fire's warmth, would be guided to their sleeping places. For them, too, the ritual of clean linen would have been a familiar comfort, the scratch of fresh straw in a mattress, softened by the yielding embrace of a linen sheet, might have been the last sensation before drifting off to sleep. For infants, swaddled in soft linen wraps, the feeling of the smooth cloth against their skin would have been a constant, gentle presence, a silent testament to the mother's unwavering care. These seemingly small details built a foundation of domestic peace, fostering a secure environment in which to grow and thrive, as the adults, too, prepared for their rest. The presence of the carefully folded garments for the next day would provide a gentle sense of continuity. Laid out or hanging neatly, perhaps a tunic or a kirtle, these items, recently laundered and smoothed, offered a quiet promise of an unburdened start to the morning. There would be no frantic searching, no rummaging through disordered piles. Only calm, deliberate act of dressing, supported by the earlier work of the household. This small act of foresight allowed for a smoother transition from the quiet repose of night back into the activity of the day. The hearth, though still glowing, would begin its slow transformation as the embers cooled, its vibrant flames giving way to a more subdued, intimate light. This fading light invited contemplation, a quiet moment of reflection on the day that had passed. The rhythmic crackle of their fire, the occasional shift of a log, would become the only sounds breaking the deep silence. In this space, surrounded by the tangible fruits of their labor, the clean, ordered linens being among the most profound, the inhabitants of the medieval home could truly find repose. The mind, having been engaged in the day's practicalities, could now wander freely, or simply rest in the quiet calm. This sense of domestic tranquility extended beyond the physical comfort of sleep. It was also about the psychological space created by an ordered home, a place where everything had its designated spot, where cleanliness was maintained, where the essentials of life were cared for with diligence. The sight of neat stacks, the knowledge that the larder was provisioned, that the tools were put away, and that the linens were fresh, allowed for a mental spaciousness, a release from the anxieties of disarray. This internal calm, fostered by external order, was a precious commodity in medieval life, offering a buffer against the myriad stresses that lay beyond the hearth. Consider, too, the subtle aesthetic pleasure derived from such order. While medieval homes might not have pursued decor in the modern sense, there was an innate beauty in functionality and cleanliness. A freshly laundered sheet, stark white or perhaps dyed a soft, earthy color, laid smoothly on a bed, possessed its own quiet elegance. The precise angles of a folded cloth, the uniform height of a stack, these were small, almost unconscious acts of artistry, expressions of care that contributed to the overall harmony of the domestic environment. The eye would rest upon them, finding satisfaction in their precision, a gentle counterpoint to the rough-hewn textures of stone and timber that often dominated the interior. The hours after sunset, before the true slumber of the household, would have been a time for shared quietude. Perhaps some mending of clothes or nets would take place by the dwindling firelight, or telling of a story passed down through generations. These were moments when the family unit coalesced, drawing strength from one another and from the sanctuary of their home. The warmth of the hearth, the soft rustle of garments, the scent of clean linen from nearby chestall, these sensory details would weave together to create an atmosphere of profound domesticity, a feeling of being utterly at home. The work involved in maintaining such a household was often unseen, unsung. The constanticle of washing, drying, folding, and storing linens was a ceaseless background hum to daily life, a testament to the indefatigable spirit of the women and servants who performed these tasks. Yet, in these quiet evening hours, the fruits of that labor were palpable. The soft bedding, the clean clothes, the sense of order that pervaded the sleeping quarters, these were not merely conveniences, but essential components of well-being, allowing for true repose and regeneration. The domestic sphere maintained with such care became a living, breathing entity, protecting and nurturing its inhabitants. As the last embers of the fire faded to a deep, ruddy glow, and the only light came from the moon, or the stars filtering through gaps in the roof or a tiny window, the medieval home would truly embrace its quiet repose. The soft breathing of sleepers, the occasional rustle of straw would be the only sounds, and within this stillness the stacks of clean linen, arranged with such precision, would stand as silent sentinels. They were a testament to a day well spent, a promise of comfort for the night, and a readiness for the dawn. Each thread, each fold, was imbued with the quiet labor and thoughtful care that transformed simple cloth into an anchor of domestic peace. The enduring rhythm of medieval life, though often marked by hard labor and the vagaries of nature, found its solace and its quiet strength within these moments of domestic repose. The cycle of the linen, from the initial toil of cultivation and weaving, through the arduous process of washing and drying, to the meticulous art of folding and storing, culminated here in the stillness of the quiet hearth. It wasn't this peaceful interval between the day's demands and the dawn's awakening that the true value of such humble textiles was most keenly felt. They were not merely utilitarian objects, They were interwoven with the very fabric of life itself, embodying comfort, cleanliness, and the profound restorative power of home. The journey from pile to stack was complete, and now, in the gentle embrace of the quiet hearth, the weary soul could find its rest, cradled by the simple, enduring promise of order and care. The journey from pile to stack was complete, and now, in the gentle embrace of the quiet hearth, the weary soul could find its rest, cradled by the simple, enduring promise of order and care. As the last embers of the day's fire whisper their goodbyes, and the household settles into the deep quiet of night, we are left with the profound echoes of a rhythm that shaped not only the medieval home, but also the very spirit of its inhabitants. This enduring rhythm woven into the warp and weft of daily life was far more than a series of chores. It was a silent conversation with time, a communion with the elements, and a testament to the human need for order and comfort. Where begin our journey with the daily cycle of linen, witnessing its constant presence, its essential role from dawn until dusk. We then delved into the ritual of washing and drying, an arduous yet purifying dance with water, sun, and wind, transforming soiled cloth into canvases of pristine white. From there, we explored the tactile art of folding, a mindful practice that turned disarray into geometry, a testament to patience and care. And finally, we saw the methodical arrangement, the transformation from individual piece to a cohesive stack. Each fold contributing to a greater whole, silent sentinels of preparedness and domestic peace within the quiet hearth. But what does this enduring rhythm truly mean for us, peering back through the centuries? It speaks of a deep, almost primal connection to the materials of life. In an age before mass production, every thread, every garment held a significance difficult for us to fully grasp today. Linen was not merely a commodity, it was an investment of time, labor, and precious resources. From the flax growing in the field, through the painstaking processes of retting, scutching, spinning, and weaving, to its final form as cloth, each stage demanded respect and considerable effort. The care of this linen, therefore, was an extension of that initial dedication, a continuous act of preservation and reverence. This wasn't a throwaway culture. It was a mending, making do and preserving culture where everything had its value and longevity was a virtue. The rhythm itself was cyclical, much like nature's own relentless turning. The weekly wash, the daily folding, the seasonal mending, all reinforced a sense of predictability and groundedness in a world that could often feel unpredictable and harsh. There was a comfort in knowing that despite the famines, the plagues, the wars that might rage beyond the castle walls or the village boundaries, within the four walls of the home, certain rituals would persist. The smell of clean linen drying in the sun, the satisfying crispness of a freshly folded pile. These were small anchors in a vast sea of uncertainty, providing a necessary illusion, or perhaps a profound reality, of control and continuity. Consider for a moment the profound quietude that must have accompanied these tasks. In an era without constant mechanical hums, without the ceaseless chatter of modern media, the sounds of domesticity were far simpler. The splash of water, the rustle of fabric, the gentle sigh of a broom on a stone floor, the act of folding linen with its repetitive motions and focused attention would have offered a sanctuary of silence for the mind. It was, in its own way, a form of meditation. Each crease, each alignment of edges, a moment of presence. No rush, no distraction, simply the feel of the cloth in one's hands. The smooth glide of fabric, the subtle scent of soapwort or wood smoke that still clung to the fibers. This was not a mindless task, it was a mindful one. The hands knew the fabric, the weight, the way it yielded or resisted. There was an intimacy with the cloth, a relationship built on repeated touch and care, and through this intimacy, a quiet understanding of purpose emerged. The linen was there to serve, to protect, to comfort. In return, it asked for care, for attention, for its inherent worth to be recognized. This reciprocal relationship between human and object elevated the mundane into something almost sacred. A small act of devotion to the well-being of the household. The sensory details that we've explored throughout this journey, the earthy scent of rock flax, the bracing chill of wash water, the sun-warmed softness of dried sheets, the satisfying crispness of a perfectly folded shirt culminate in this sense of enduring rhythm. These weren't fleeting moments, but experience, building a rich tapestry of memory and sensation that defined the very essence of home. The aroma of clean linen, fresh from the line, mingling with the scent of hearth smoke, became the very fragrance of domestic peace. The visual order of neatly stacked textiles, a silent promise of comfort and readiness, transformed a simple cupboard or chest into a repository of well-being. And let us not forget the quiet power this order held. In a hierarchical society where external forces often dictated one's fate, the domestic sphere offered a rare realm of agency. Within the confines of one's home, one could create an environment of control, beauty, and security. The meticulous care of linen was a tangible expression of this agency, a way of shaping one's immediate world into a sanctuary. It was a statement of intention that despite life's hardships, one would strive for cleanliness, for comfort, for a semblance of grace. The enduring rhythm of medieval linen care, therefore, teaches us a deeper lesson about the human spirit. It reminds us that even in the seemingly most boring or repetitive tasks, there is potential for profound meaning. It suggests that consistency, attention to detail, and a reverence for the materials of our lives can transform mere chores into acts of quiet devotion, building blocks for a peaceful existence. Even today, in our fast-paced, often overwhelming modern world, the simple act of folding laundry can offer a the methodical movement, the tactile connection with fabric, The satisfaction of creating order from chaos, these are timeless human needs. When we smooth out a wrinkle, when we align edges, when we create a neat stack, we are in a small way echoing the same rhythm that guided hands centuries ago. We are engaging in a quiet act of domesticity that transcends time, connecting us to generations past who also found peace in the simple, repetitive care of their homes and their belongings. So, as we bring our reflections to a close, let us carry with us this understanding that the repetitive folding of medieval linen was not just a historical curiosity, but a profound expression of human nature. It was our rhythm of life that embraced hard work, found beauty in simplicity, and ultimately created a haven of peace and comfort in a demanding world. The silent stacks of linen, waiting patiently in the quiet hearth, stand not just as testament to a day's labor, but as an enduring symbol of humanity's timeless quest for order, cleanliness, and the deep restorative power of home. And in that rhythm, we find a quiet echo, a gentle invitation to discover the extraordinary in the ordinary, the profound in the simple, and the enduring peace in the quiet rhythms of our own lives. And so, as the day softens into evening and the last of the sunlight fades from the quiet corners of the medieval home, we can almost feel the presence of hands that meticulously folded each piece of linen. We can almost hear the soft rustle of fabric, a whisper across the centuries, carrying the simple truth that peace is often woven into the quietest moments, found in the steady, deliberate rhythms of life. It's a peace that doesn't demand grand gestures, but thrives in the gentle touch, the focused mind, and the deep satisfaction of turning chaos into order, one careful fold at a time. The legacy of those quiet acts of domesticity remains a timeless invitation for us all to slow down, to breathe, and to discover the soothing harmony that resides in the simple, often overlooked beauty of our own daily routines. Perhaps in finding that harmony, we too can create our own sanctuaries built on the foundations of grace, intention, and the profound comfort of home. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the quiet corners of history. I hope this tale of medieval linen and its gentle rhythms has brought you a moment of peace and calm. If you enjoyed drifting away with me today, please consider subscribing to Whisper Vale. Your support helps us continue to uncover these forgotten stories and share them with you. And if you're ready for another journey into the quiet depths of the past, you'll find many more tales waiting for you right here on the channel. Until next time, may your days be filled with comfort and your nights with peaceful dreams.